patterns of exercise and physical activity. So I think it makes sense before we consider food, sleep, and exercise that we consider our physical health. Our health is the foundation of all that we do. It affects all aspects of our physical well-being. Our wellness will determine what we can do in terms of eating, sleeping, and being physical, which is where we require clarity in understanding our capabilities. In the story we heard, Elijah is exhausted and he's hungry. He's on the run. And he reaches a point where he believes he can't go on anymore, falls down beneath a tree, and he prays for death. One might say Elijah can lack a little clarity here. He believes that there's no way that he can carry on, and therefore he sees there being no point even trying to care for his physical self. I think so often we can reach a point where maybe we've tried to make changes to improve our health, we've become discouraged, and we've given up. It might be that you've reached the conclusion of, you know what, I am too old, I'm too incapable, or I'm too busy to take care of myself physically. But there's a commitment required when caring for oneself. We may face setbacks, moments of illness or lack of time, but we shouldn't cease to do what we know is good in these hard moments. This clarity of knowing that we should take care of ourselves despite the things that hold us back has to come hand in hand, though, with common sense. We will all have moments where we are perhaps less able to look after our physical health. We may sometimes reach points where we can't do all that we would like to, whether that's age, illness, injury, disability. We have to take all of these things into account when we're considering how we take care of ourselves. We have to pay attention to our body's signals and seek medical advice when necessary. We should make well-informed choices regarding our well-being. So often we know what we should be doing to take care of our bodies and our health, but we maybe put our priorities in other places, and we choose to not. I expect deep down, Elijah knew that all he needed was to rest and eat and heal, but in this moment of lacking clarity, he chooses to give up, a decision that I think many of us will be able to empathize with. But we shouldn't be discouraged. So, to get incredibly practical for a moment, let's consider sleep, eating, and exercise as spiritual disciplines. So, sleep. Elijah found rest and rejuvenation in sleep. We too need to sleep in order to function and recover, and neglecting sleep can impact our mental and physical health. We know this, it's common sense. But often we choose to stay up a little later. Maybe we watch another episode of whatever box set we're on at the moment. Or maybe we say yes to doing something that we know will go a bit later on into the night, but it's okay because maybe it'll have a knock-on effect and we wake up first thing and have to deal with that in our days. We need, in these instances, to consider what is good, what's going to take care of my body, this temple and this gift that has been given to me. Making a commitment to rest is actually a surprisingly hard thing to do a lot of the time, and it's a hard choice to make. But it's something that will do wonders for our mental and our physical health. But it might be you're not at a point where you can prioritize sleep. Perhaps you have young children that love to wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It might be that you just struggle with sleep in general. Or you have reason to need to work late into the night. I remember being a student. But in these instances of health, we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as it was. And doing other things that care for your physical body shouldn't suffer if one other area of your health is suffering at the moment. Which kind of leads us on to point number 2, food and drink. What we consume matters. Food and drink is pleasurable, but it's also necessary. Excess and lack of can be detrimental. Are we mindful of what we are eating and drinking and how it affects us? Elijah in our story hadn't eaten anything or drunk water in days, and he was suffering because of it. On the flip side, 64% of the UK is overweight, leading to a lack of capacity and, in some instances, disease. We need to approach food and drink, what we consume, with a sense of common sense and balance, making sure to nourish ourselves, but not to excess, as a spiritual discipline. We care for these bodies, these temples of the Spirit, and being mindful of overindulgence and underindulgence is essential in care for them. But again, same as with sleep, you might not be in a place where you can be so dedicated with your food decisions. You may lead an incredibly busy life that unfortunately leans on you relying on takeaways maybe a little bit more than you'd like to admit. You might have health or dietary issues that means you have less choice over the foods that you consume. Or you might just not be in a place where you can regularly access healthy foods. Same as with sleep. Even if you can't be a place where you prioritize what you eat and what you drink, you should still make sure to sleep and to move. But on the subject of physical activity, exercise doesn't need to be intimidating. If you don't have a pattern of some form of regular exercise, I'm not saying that you immediately need to start running marathons and enjoy it. But you do have to consider what you can do, what you are capable of. Small changes, a walk, a stretch, can have a significant impact on overall health and well-being, and it can actually build from there. I don't know if anyone can cast their mind back to the COVID-19 pandemic. By show of hands, did anyone watch the Joe Wicks PE lessons? Yeah, I'm seeing some hands raised. Viewership for the Joe Wicks PE lessons, and for those of you that don't know what it is, he is an incredibly handsome, fit young man who bounces around doing incredible things, sort of fitness-wise, that you don't have a hope of trying to keep up with if you try. And viewership massively declined after his first PE lesson, as people realized that they couldn't keep up with him and they grew discouraged and chose not to engage. Either that or they actually physically injured themselves in the first session. The truth is, we shouldn't push ourselves to exhaustion or injury. We see Elijah doing this in the story, and we read that afterwards he prayed for death, which is exactly what I was doing after the first Joe Wicks PE lesson. But regular physical activity is essential for our physical and spiritual health. We need to approach it with an attitude of consistency rather than intensity. But the same as before, if you're in a place where you can't dedicate the time or find capacity to exercise or move around as fully as you would like to, you can still, as an act of worship, consider what you eat, get enough sleep, do your best to take care of your body, and don't allow a lack of ability, time, or dedication, or time that you can set aside for exercise to impact your overall health and well-being. 2 years ago, I weighed 4 stone more than I do now. And that came out of a time in my life where I prioritized work over my health. I was working for a church at the time. And it wasn't until my health was in the early stages of deteriorating that I did something about it. I'd love to say that the changes I made to my physical sort of health were based on real kind of commitment and spiritual discipline, but they weren't. It was out of the fear of consequences of what would happen if I didn't make a change. What I found is that as I improved my physical health, my mental health, my physical capability, and my energy levels were vastly improved. I went from doing nothing to care for myself because I felt it was the best testament of my faith. I can't possibly care for myself because I'm doing too much in my work for the church. I went from that point to actually being able to dedicate more. I had more capacity, more energy, and a better attitude to the church. I vastly improved when I started taking care of myself. Caring for our bodies is a spiritual discipline. It's caring for the vessel from which we act out our faith and are capable of sharing life and the gospel with others. Our bodies as temples of the Holy Spirit deserve the utmost care and respect. Poorly caring for oneself is poorly caring for the unique and special gift that we have each been given. We might have an attitude where we don't love ourselves because we feel that it's in some way narcissistic. We look at the bodybuilders, the gym posers, and we roll our eyes at them. But in truth, we are made in the image of God and carry within us his Spirit. And we have to protect that in the same way that we would seek to care for and honor any other person or precious artifact. I wonder if I could invite the band back up to the front. You see, we are a community who gather, belong, we act, we give, and we can encourage one another in embracing this spiritual discipline of caring for our physical bodies. Might I suggest a bit of a challenge? Find a friend in church. Take them running, take them walking, jogging, go on a dog walk, go swimming, go golfing with them. Do something. Alternatively, you could invite someone over for dinner. Try and cook a healthy meal together, or